All right, hey, how's it going? Yeah, just had something running across my mind. There's a lot going on in my life right now. There's a lot of events unfolding that I've been waiting for since March. Um, yeah, it's not fun, not pretty. It's going to be a really, really ugly. But it needs to happen. And, we'll get the pot of gold on the other side of the rainbow. um, anyway. The tarot card community. So I've always been interested in the occult. Actually, personally, I'm always been interested in Gnostic Christianity. I didn't know that was for a long time, but that's actually what my interests were: getting to know God through like physical means. The Gnostics think that you can get to know God by practicing these occult rituals and stuff like that, and you can get closer to the divine. And they've also got a huge backstory, which is pretty interesting, which seems more like a story. But to be honest with me, the further I get in my walk with God, the more I see those things as demonic in nature. And that's, for lack of a better term, but maybe it's extremely accurate, I don't know. But here's the problem, okay? I believe in Jesus. And the fact that I believe in Jesus means that I believe in evil, right? I believe in the devil. Because if I'm going to believe in all that stuff anyway, why would you not believe in it? It doesn't make sense for there to be a force for light without an equal opposing good, right? So when the Bible says that fortune telling and stuff like that is a sin, that's true because fortune telling is a real thing. You can do it. Psychics are real. All that stuff is real. But it's how we use it. Like if I apply worldly, earthly logic to like a tarot card reading, which is supposed to be an intrapsychic look into yourself, and the cards represent Jungian archetypes, which when I put together in front of you, it kind of is like an ink blot, right? What do you see? What's coming up when just something random? How does your brain make randomness into coherence, right? And with the Jungian archetypes, it's not so much randomness, it's more fundamental human story, right? Which is how we process our reality, is through stories, right? And so archetypes are parts, big, they're story arcs, rather, right? The Great Mother, the Fool. We go back both ways between traditional Jungian archetypes and then things like tarot cards, right? Tarot cards weren't even invented until like the 1700s. Like the Marseille deck, I think, was one of the first ones, and they used it as a card game. It wasn't until later Aleister Crowley made it to where it was like, oh, we can do fortune telling with these things, because you can, in the same way somebody can do them with a regular deck of cards, or somebody can do them with stones, But traditionally, those things, the tarot cards are not ancient. It's the archetypes that the idea of the tarot cards is based on. That's what's ancient, right? If you go back I wrote a paper on folklore when I was younger, in a composition 2 class. It was really fun. And anyway, folklore, it's like, damn, I threw myself off. I looked at myself and I gotta not do that. Don't look at the screen. Yeah. That's where these things come from. They're like, let me get my train of thought. I can clip this out. Yeah, when I was younger, I wrote a paper on folklore. And so I began to start learning and start understanding like anthropological and sociological concepts, and how to view the ancient peoples that way, because that's the only thing we have from them is the overall sentiment of the whole community, the community as a whole, right? 2,000 years made into like a single idea that you would say, these are the Egyptians, or these are the Sumerians, right? And that's a whole entire culture over a long period of time being squeezed down into one thing, right? So you could say like, that's an archetype. It's a big idea that's multifaceted, very dynamic, and very intrinsically human, kind of crammed into one picture, right? One sigil, right? And so it makes it easy to navigate the self when you're thinking of, to navigate the self when you're going through a hard time or whatever. By using those things, that's why they're so important. And so fundamental to who we are as people. Just because you don't understand what Jungian archetypes are, or doesn't mean that it's not correct. You know what I mean? It just means you're uninformed. You know what I'm saying? So don't let it scare you. I know that was a little bit arrogant for me to say, but just don't let it scare you. When you see somebody working on themselves and using language like that, because maybe that's how they understand things. Maybe that's the only way they're able to slow their brain down enough to be able to see what's going on, is by looking at large chunks, because their thoughts move way too fast. And so you got to take big chunks at a time, because the details are lost in translation, right? And all you're left with is the sentiment. You're left with the feeling, right? The feeling. Like, how do you describe inner security? How do you do that? How do you define unconditional love in a single sentence that would actually feel as if it represented what it meant? Sure, I could make it. I'm sure Friedrich Nietzsche would beg to differ. However, I would probably disagree back and say that his single sentence would be 4 pages long. And so that's cheating, Mr. Nietzsche. I apologize. But, yeah, sorry. Sorry, what was I talking about? It threw me off. Hold on, let me drink my coffee. But yeah, so recently I discovered what this topic of study is, and it's called ethnography, right? It's the study of knowledge. And so in any system of knowledge, you can break that down into the different components that create the total knowledge basis for that specific thing, right? And then if you understand that, then you can break things into their different components. And so when it comes to the tarot community, and this is all going to tie together, when it comes to the tarot community, there is an aspect of self-healing that comes along with watching a tarot card video. The problem is when the devil takes over, people put their faith in these readings and they take them as fact, right? They start doing and saying and believing the things that the readers are saying, right? Rather than taking the sentiment of what the reading is into their own life, trying to figure out how it can make them better, safer, whatever, and then watching and just observing how things play out and how that particular archetypal story that you heard resonates with your personal external reality. Does that make sense? Like, it's you're not putting your faith in anything. You're utilizing narrative, someone talking, telling a story, in order to identify with pieces of the story, in order to feel more secure. We do that with each other every day. Humans do that with each other every day when you're talking, right? You tell me something, and then I'm like, oh wow, dude, I really resonate with this part, yada yada. So I tell this story, and that's how a conversation goes, or something like that. That's what we do. And so we do the same thing with other stories, like what is it called? Like fairy tales, Grimm's fairy tales. We teach children ethical lessons and different types of lessons through stories when they're young, because they're palatable for children, because children haven't honed in yet on the details, because that's more of like I'm pretty sure prefrontal cortex thing, right? A higher level thinking, and for children, they don't have that. And so that's how we pass stories on. But as people, when we become traumatized in some way, that area of our brain becomes very affected. Or if you have like a bout of depression, or if you have a bout of, substance abuse, that area becomes very effective, and logical, rational, linear, fact-based teaching is not going to accomplish what you think it's going to accomplish, because you need to bypass the part that's dysfunctional and hit the person's emotions. And the way you do that is through storytelling, because there's the resonation with that. I don't know if resonation is a word, but you resonate with the story, you feel it. You know what I mean? And so when you have whole large groups of people all watching these tarot card videos all day, right? You just leave them on in the background, right? Because some people, when they're going through a hard time, they'll have like Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous tapes, and they'll just have them playing in the background because it's comfortable. It's comforting. They enjoy the identification from somebody telling their story, somebody telling a story, and it's very therapeutic, and people do that with tarot card readings as well. I do that too sometimes, and actually I do it more than I care to think. But it's to allow. It's just hearing a story. And it's like, why do you think people like soap operas? You're sitting down and you're watching a story. It feels like it's you. You know what I mean? You're identifying with the drama of it. And that draws people in. But when people start putting their faith in these things, they start making choices in their lives, and they unknowingly are working together. Okay, that's what's happening, because you don't know that you and 5 other people on this street like the same fucking YouTuber, right? You don't know that, but you're all watching it, and 3 of you are putting your faith in those videos, and you're making choices based on it. So that's 3 people on that one street who are all in groupthink together without knowing it, right? That's what's happening. And I don't think there's anything malicious. However, I do think that if somebody caught on to that, they could utilize it in order to do some damage.